Here I'm making a German woven star. And we're going to take our pieces of paper. We have 1/2 inch by 12 inch slivers of paper, and we fold them in half. This is double-sided paper. And once we have folded everything in half, we clip the ends so that we can use that as the weaving section of the paper. We're going to thread that through different areas to make our design. So we start with 2 diagonal strips of paper and 2 vertical, and we thread them in and out of each other like so. Pause the video if you're having a hard time seeing what I'm doing here. Even if I describe it, it's quite tricky. The first time I did this star many times actually, and this is probably like the 6th one. So practice makes perfect, and I'm not perfect, but hey. So we pull those together and it makes this little weaved section, looks like a basket, and a pinwheel. So we take the top section of the pinwheel and we fold it over and crease the fold nice and sharp, and turn the pinwheel to the right clockwise, and then do the same again with the top strip of paper. Turn clockwise, fold over the top left piece of paper, press it down and turn clockwise. Left top piece of paper. This is the 4th one, and this is a little different. So we thread this in that little area there, and that locks this into shape and keeps things a little bit more solid for us. So now we take the top right and we fold it under itself. Make sure you do it the right way, like so, and then you fold down parallel with the vertical pieces, and you crease that nice and strongly, and it's a little rooftop there. And then we fold that back on itself and make sure there's a nice sharp crease. And then we hold the first little tip of our star and we thread this through this little section, and you see the triangle coming through, so you pull that gently, and sometimes it has a little bounce and a little resistance right here, so if you pull hard, you could possibly rip the paper, so you have to be careful. Now we do this the same way all the way around. It's always the right strip of paper, and it's folded under into a triangle, and then it's folded over, and it makes a little rooftop. And then you fold it back on itself. Now it just looks like a little triangle, and that's your 2nd point. And you thread that through. Oops. And pull on it gently. It is a little bit fiddly. That one popped very quickly. And we do this all the way around. And it's important to have the creases nice and sharp, and to keep everything flush with the things that are next to it. Right here I went a little wonky and I straighten it up, and then I crease, and then I fold it back. Nice sharp point. Hold that tip. I found this was the easiest way to get this to thread through. Oh. This one's resisting, so I give it a little wiggle. There we go. Okay, and this is the last one on this side. So same again, triangle, fold forward, rooftop, nice. nice and parallel to its vertical piece, and then fold it back on itself, make a nice sharp crease. And then this one has a flap. This has an extra flap because it's the last one. So then we lift that up and then we go under. That one's a little bit tight. Just remember to be gentle but firm, if that makes sense to you. And I did rip some of these, so, and then we have a nice new pinwheel. This one's a little bit prettier than the other one. Flip it over and we're going to do the same again. It's the same right strip, fold it under into a triangle, fold it forward into another triangle, which makes our rooftop, and then fold it back on itself. Sharp creases. Oops, a bit fiddly. And thread that through. You could probably use a crochet hook or something here to help round that out so it doesn't give us so much resistance. Fold under into a triangle, fold forward into a triangle. That makes our little rooftop, and then fold that back on itself. And once you get the hang of it, this isn't too bad. And the stars are really cute. The double paper really helps with visuals, helping, especially if you haven't done this before. When it's the same color, it's a little bit more difficult, I found. And with the smaller paper, the 1/2 inch by 12 inch, the stars are cute and they're manageable. It is a little bit fiddly for older fingers, and you could increase it to maybe 3/4 inch by say 17 inch, and then that would probably be helpful for you know, any arthritis fingers out there. Okay, and then we tuck it under. Pull through gently. Sometimes when you hold the tip, it makes it a little easier to pull it. Okay, and then we put that there, and we've got another new pinwheel. So now we're going to make the stars 3-dimensional points. And to help me, I'm going to put this little dot here, and I know that that side, that dot has to stay up, and underneath this flap I'm doing a little arrow, and that is where that dot has to go. So I hold that flap and I figure out how to twist this around and without ripping and without folding, although there could be a little bit of a fold there, and then pull that through, and you see that it comes out the other point. It was harder to see because it was the same color. So now I'm fiddling and trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what do I do? Yeah, and then we just, this time, yeah, we're rotating to the right after we do each one. And you'll see the little triangle come through the other point that's already been done. Oh, and this one, that one didn't go through, so I figure if I took a tiny sliver off with my scissors that it would go through more easily. And if you try and pull it through when it's too wide, it can rip the corners. Okay, is that one going through? So now I see the tip, and you pull that through, give it a little wiggle, and then sometimes you have to put your finger in the new point and try and help to shape it as it goes through. You just have to be patient and gentle but firm, and you'll get it done. Okay, pulling that through, make sure it's tight, pulling on the other one too, and turn it to the right clockwise. It does sometimes get confusing with the three-dimensional area especially, so I had put it through the wrong way, and I just came back and I don't think that's the right way. Okay, no, it's okay. Shaping it a bit with my finger, which you can not see because the flap's in the way. But the best advice is to practice, and maybe practice on some copy paper from the printer first, and save your good paper until you've had a couple practices. And as you can see, sometimes I have to use a tool to help me form the shape, and you can use a pair of scissors was a little bit big, but maybe a crochet needle or something thin, like a skewer perhaps. So I've got that side done, and I'm just tightening these up a little bit to see if the shape changes any. Go all the way around, and then I reshape the points a little bit more, trying to make it more pleasing to the eye, and then I flip it over and we do the same again. So it helps if you always go clockwise, and then you can keep yourself on track. It can get confusing, and I did get muddled up a couple times here. And I've let my, I think my paper was shorter than 12 inches, and so these ends are very fiddly and small. But I think if you do the 12-inch paper, that you should be fine. And you can also use, say, maybe strips that are 3/4 of an inch by 17 inches, and I think that will be a lot less fiddly for your fingers, and I think I will try that too. But I had 12-inch paper, or I had 10-inch paper here, so mine's a little bit tight, and I do get fiddly here. And I'm trying to push it through without wrecking the paper. And as I've said, it is a little bit tricky, but once you get the gist of it, it goes much quicker. And as long as your paper is a good length, it's better to have too long than too short, because you can cut off the excess at the end. You don't have to worry about it. And here you can see my paper is very short, and that makes it more difficult to thread through and grab at the other end. You see that tiny little point? You got to pull that through. And then I see that one was a little bit bulging, so I'm gonna manipulate that a little bit more, and then I will be able to pull that through a little bit more, and that leaves more space for the next one. And now we're going to go to the final one, and I use my tool to help me fold it. And yeah, look at how short my paper is. And I realize this last one actually is a little bit too wide. And rather than struggle and potentially rip the paper, I decide to pull that back out and give it a little trim. Yeah, it won't go. So yeah, unfold it, get your scissors, and just nick a little bit off the edges. See how thin that is? Well, it's just a tiny bit. So here we go again. This works much better. It goes in more easily. Still nice to have a tool when the paper's so short though. Okay, and just, do what you have to do to get that little star shape. Almost. So don't get discouraged. Practice with some scrap paper. And now I've got that through, I'm able to trim off my edges. Those excess pieces are from pulling the stars through, so you trim it up to your two-dimensional star points. Oh, my scissors aren't sharp. Okay, and there we go. There's our German woven star. And this is far from perfect, and that's okay. I just wanted to share this with you so you know it isn't perfection first time round, and you just keep trying. Persistence pays off, and they're rather cute and they're lovely to put on gifts and things. So there we go. There's the German woven star. Thanks for watching.